Hey everybody, welcome back to the Overwatch Project. This is episode 2 of my podcast. It's February 23rd, 2019. What are the secrets of the universe? The real matrix revealed. At least that's what I'm calling this episode. I'm going to try to share finally what I really think. With no holds barred, no source material to back up what I think. All the source material is available on my website at OverwatchProject.com, but this is what I think our reality is really all about. I mean, when you stop to think about it, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, don't you have to wonder, why does anything exist at all? Why is there something instead of nothing? And what does it all mean? And I've given this a lot of thought over my whole lifetime, actually. It seems to be something that has always nagged at me to constantly think about it. And so let's start at the beginning. I don't know why there's something instead of nothing. I have an idea that everything is information first. So information is primary, not matter. Matter is simply a construct of information. So there was no big bang of matter and energy. There was instead an initial source of information. And that initial source of information is the foundation for everything. That's the way I see it. The foundation for everything in this universe and beyond this universe, and a multiverse and an omniverse and an infinite, never-ending series of realities. And that this information, or base information, or source code, is what everything else is then built on top of. It is the God above gods, if you want to call it that, the designer, the foundation. But it may not be personal, and it may not care about any of its individual internal beings that exist within it. It may be more like an operating system, or just something that we exist within and because of. Keep in mind that I'm trying to articulate in language what sometimes I can only see in imagery or in non-language kind of thoughts in my head. I've done a lot of research. If you know my background, and if you've watched my older YouTube videos or see my interviews, you'll know what I'm about. If you're new to my channel or my podcast or wherever you happen to be listening to this from, my website is OverwatchProject.com, and if you just go there, it's a good start. Everything that you can know about me that's relevant to this information, and a lot of source material, links, books, all type of stuff is there. So let me try to explain it in words what cannot be explained in words. So we have this source. I think of it that way. A source of everything. And from there, other things began to happen. Now, our universe, I think, was created with a special purpose. And by someone or something, a designer made our universe for a purpose. And that this place is like a soul farm or an actual real matrix. And I'm going to try to explain this. This is how I think reality is, what reality is about. And if you're looking through things through a certain view, a word of caution that your view will stop you from listening to me. That's the way our brains interfere with our consciousness. Like the other day, I was listening to this, watching this YouTube documentary about the paranormal, and it was from a YouTube channel that it has a religious viewpoint, and they begin the video by saying the paranormal explained through a biblical viewpoint. And that right there tells you that while some of the information they're giving you in the video might be beneficial, the conclusions and deductions that they make are all going to be skewed and off kilter because they're looking at it through a filter. And if you really want to try to understand or investigate all this for yourself, which is what I recommend, that everybody does their own investigation and comes to the conclusion based on a totality of information, and be aware of how you bias the information yourself, so that you can see how if you're excluding things because you have a belief system, whether you're an atheist or religious, whatever. If you're looking through a filter like that, you're going to already be off course. But I believe that, to paraphrase Robert Monroe, if you read his books, I recommend that you do. The Out-of-Body Experiencer, Robert Monroe, in his second book, Far Journeys, has this whole creation of our world in there, and it really resonates with me. It makes sense. It is one of the few origin stories of our world and our universe that actually makes sense, because it fits the data that I'm looking at, all the other data, reincarnation, near-death experience data, out-of-body experience data, what scientists say. I try to listen to everyone, what atheists say, and you got to pick the data out of their worldviews, because the worldview can contaminate the way you see the data. So if you understand what I mean. Now, how do I know? Why should you even care about my opinions? Well, you don't have to. I recommend that you don't follow me, or, I'm not a guru. You should be your own guru. But I want to tell you that I come from a long career in investigation type work. And there were many, many times where I deduced and concluded ideas in my head that were later proven true. So, like, I would suspect somebody of a crime, and I pieced together information from all different sources, took a look at the totality of everything, and then I was later proven correct. But that is in the real world, or the material world we exist and operate in and perceive as a human. So I don't know if that also applies to supernatural or paranormal stuff, or what happens in the afterlife. But I just have a sense for myself, personally, for me, that this makes sense. So I think this world is a soul farm, or a reincarnation. And I want to use the word trap, but it's not quite a trap. It's an opt-in thing where you become the product. And you can relate to this in the material world, because there are corporations, giant entities out there doing the exact same thing. If you want to say that the things that go on in our material world is a reflection or a poor simulation of possibly the higher dimensions that exist within this universe that we're in, as above, so below, then look at Google, Facebook, Twitter, these other internet companies that seemingly give you something for free. But in fact, they don't. They've actually made you their product, right? Isn't that what the whole purpose of Facebook and Google is? They give you these apparently services, and you use them for apparently nothing, and you get to interact, and you seem to be able to get benefit from them. But in fact, they're really, really involved in, right now, censoring, strangling freedom of speech, corrupting the way we think, and they've turned the person using their services into the actual product. It's all inverted, and I think that this reality is like that. It's think about what reincarnation believers, and there's plenty of data to back up reincarnation. I don't want to get into trying to prove anything to people that aren't already caught up to speed in this podcast. Like I said, all the source material, links, books, etc. are on my website, OverwatchProject.com. But reincarnation, people that have that included into their worldview, all seem to be of this notion that it's a learning experience, or somehow it's a benefit to you. Same way somebody using Google or Facebook or Twitter think that they're benefiting from using those services. I look at it this way. the reincarnation system is created. This reality is created like a soul farm where we are the product and that we are producing something of benefit for the maker of this universe. That's how I see the secret of the universe, the real matrix revealed. So when Robert Monroe writes in his book Far Journeys that someone or some things from somewhere made this garden, this universe, this earth, because they were trying to produce something called loosh, this mysterious energy or whatever that can be produced, and various forms of life were created and then destroyed here until they got to human life, which gave them the best refined loosh. Because non-physical beings that exist in a pure state of awareness, that don't even have a sex, that are genderless, and include all these aspects of being, an individualized, all-encompassed, almost like every being out there, every individual being is almost like a universe unto themselves. I reject this notion of oneness. We exist in a field, a source of oneness, but we are not one. So I have a completely different view on what you're getting from these New Agers or from these other spiritual gurus out there. Oneness or anything that robs you of your individuality is, to me, bullshit. And I think that, splitting eventually, originally, according to a lot of mythologies in the world too, that the original being was androgynous. But then, if you look at how Robert Monroe described it, which I think, like I said, resonates with me very well compared to the totality of information I've looked at, the being was split into genders. And that was to create more loneliness, separation, and more interaction, more chaos, more stuff that would have to happen to produce more loosh. Every time we reproduce, we suck another spirit from the outside of this universe to incarnate here for a lifetime. And then when new spirits arrive here, they get hooked. It's like crack, it's like heroin, it's like oxy or whatever drug out there that is super addictive. It's like some addictive game where you come in and then you can leave, but it's very hard to leave. Just like when I found out, when I bailed on mostly everything Google, I still have my YouTube channel, and my Spreaker account here mirrors everything to YouTube so it can be mirrored on BitChute, and then I can put it elsewhere on the internet for people to find. But I did get rid of using Google for anything. I don't use their search. I don't use their email services. Everything else I have dumped, and YouTube is sort of like a legacy thing I still have there, but I don't really care for it much. But when I went to get out of there, when I went to switch to Proton Mail and to do other things to get off of using their services, their browser, everything else, went to Firefox and went to DuckDuckGo and to search and all this other stuff, I found out it was incredibly difficult for me. I had to intentionally want to leave. And I think it's like that here, right? When you die, even if you think if you don't actually desire to leave, if you're not intent on doing it, and I think that is the only thing you have to do, is to fully intend to do it and commit to it. And then you can leave. Otherwise, you get stuck in a loop here. You get seduced or frightened or guilted or whatever works on you to stay here and to reincarnate again. That, I think, is the actual secrets of what's going on here. And the simplicity of how to leave. It's a prison with no bars, no doors. Just like these so-called big tech giants use manipulation, and they use seductive tools that we can use apparently for free, for our benefit, to stay in their ecosystem. It's an analogy or a metaphor, however you want to look at it, but it's what I see repeated over and over again in all these philosophies, all these religions, all these spiritual gurus. They all want to see the earth as a good place, or, oh, isn't nature wonderful? Meanwhile, nature is actively trying to kill everything. As soon as you're born, it's out to kill you. Humans are sort of like this half-ass, half animal, half spirit, or a spirit trapped inside of a being that is genetically engineered to house us and to have us have this added awareness of ourselves, so that we have a foot in the divine and a foot in the material world. I never understand these people that can believe things that are so incredibly ridiculous when you think about them. And yet, I get sometimes insulting comments on my YouTube channel, or people just thinking that, I don't have any clue about what I'm talking about. But yet they don't have any problem. I mean, if you just read about what DNA is, for example, the code of DNA, how it works, in layman's terms, in common language, and then you think about that they're telling you that the official scientific, atheistic story is that just coded itself by coincidence. It's just an accident and meaningless. Doesn't mean anything. And that these learned supposed authorities of information are telling you that's the truth. Just like a religious person that has a book that can't be verified, thousands of years old, was originally transmitted by word of mouth. Some of the things in it, clearly, if you read what some of these books actually say versus what they tell you it means, is highly troubling. People are willing to kill themselves or kill others for these beliefs. And yet, someone who wants to really critically analyze all this information, if you're like me and you want to do that, we're the weird ones. We're the kooks, right? So, the secrets of the universe, the real matrix revealed. We live inside of we're experiencing existence as humans because our spirits are put into human bodies by our choice. Now, I think that the original humans or the original spirits here were actually part of the designer. These are what people call organic portals, non-player characters, etc. They are sort of like, the people you meet that seem to be kind of vacant. There's a lot of them, but they're not everybody. These are either sleeping spirits or they're just like part of the designer. Like maybe when the first spirits were introduced into this soul farm, the first humans that worked to produce the energy needed for the whatever this loosh is, or whatever the people that want to harvest whatever for whatever reasons here did was create a human, and they put a little bit of divinity into their spirit so they could be good loosh machines or energy machines. But then later they realized they could open up the system. See, I think that there are spirits, or I hate to use the word spirit because it has a religious connotation, non-physical, formless beings of pure awareness. But they can be naive. Just because you're aware of everything doesn't mean you understand everything, and it doesn't mean that you have wisdom and experience. What if you were a spirit or a non-physical being that existed in a void for millennia or for an unknown determined period of time, because time was completely irrelevant to you? You didn't even experience linear time. That's a earthly or material universe thing. It's an illusion here, but linear time is just something else that confines us here. Another limitation. But in wherever you came from, let's suppose that you come across, you're wandering out there in all kinds of dimensions and planes of existence, and you come across something that intrigues you, the earth and its universe that it's in. You meet a gatekeeper, and you ask, what is that? It looks really interesting. Wow, what is this human life that I could experience temporarily? Gee, that sounds fascinating. And it does from a naive point of view. And then a gatekeeper will say, well, you just have to opt in. Here are the conditions. And they throw a whole bunch of information at you telepathically. And then you agree because you were anxious to try something new. I mean, there could be realities out there with beings that just play games all day. Don't forget, in a non-physical form, we don't have to eat. We don't have to worry about starvation. We don't need vehicles to travel in. We can wander around by pure thought. We're not restricted by anything. Pure free will, which cannot be violated. I think that is a law from the background source code. Free will. So they have to have you choose to enter. So you opt in, and then you get born as a human being. Maybe you're a cautious type, and you choose wisely, and you get to experience life here by being born as a person that you choose to be. Or maybe you're in a rush. I can't wait to get in here. This is really exciting. Put me anywhere. And then you randomly get put into a human. Who knows what race or what country you end up in. You could end up in a horrible condition, starvation or whatever. And then you die. And then you come out of your body. And then before you leave the system, there'll be some kind of gatekeeper there. And it will maybe morph or appear or shapeshift into whatever fits the last experience you had as a human. The religion you had, or whatever would make you most at ease or frightened in your communications, depending on what kind of mindset you have. And then its job is to lure you back in. Karma, and don't you want to fix this problem? We can put you in a soul pod with a family of souls, and you guys can change roles throughout different lifetimes. Blah blah blah. This will go on and on and on, and until you wake up, or you choose to leave, or you end up in a lifetime that ends you up making you into like a Gnostic or something, where you figure it out. Notice that of all the philosophies, whether you're an agnostic, an atheist, a religious person, a new ager, you're into some kind of the latest spiritual fad out there, whatever it is, they all have the same core, at some point, some core element that is very similar. Either it's all meaningless, or you got to listen to this God, or this is the one true way, or, it's all your fault. You have original sin. There's always some maze of problems that you will never be able to solve, except for the one philosophy of Gnosticism, which is freedom through knowledge, actual, real Gnosticism. Words get corrupted, right? Like a bunch of people that are not even for freedom get called anarchists, but they're not really anarchists. If you want to know what a real anarchist is, listen to Larkin Rose or Mark Passio, or go to the Anarchapulco YouTube channel and listen to some of the seminars there. And then you'll learn about real anarchy, which comes from the Greek word anarchon, which means without rulers. So people promoting tyranny and violence cannot be anarchists, yet our news media and the way that the word is polluted and propagandized, and all kinds of words get polluted and propagandized, like Gnosticism, which simply means actually knowledge, right? So my philosophy is simple. I think things are actually much simpler than they appear. We don't need any special rituals or magic spells or someone to save us. when you die, if you know what's going on, if you are not playing, if you have like a guilt problem, then you need to address that before you die. You need to convert your guilt. I would recommend converting it to remorse, where you acknowledge mistakes and you admit that you learned from them. Then you don't have to be guilty about anything. You can move on. Once you die, don't be afraid. Nothing can hurt you. You will still project your human appearance, probably. But don't forget, you're not really human. Your awareness, your consciousness is a formless, genderless, individualized being. And while we're in human form, and since we are any spirits that originated out of source, so we're sort of like mini sources ourselves, and then we're put into a human body. We're almost like the textbook definition of demigods when you think about it. Half divine, half human, believing that we're all human and with amnesia, because when you opt into the matrix, you have to agree to perceive things as a human being, which has parameters, things that limit you, limit how you can think, how you perceive information, what you can remember. It's no different than video games. If you play a video game, if you're playing a video game and you get to be an avatar in a video game, there's limits. You can only do what the game allows. And there are glitches and there are hacks. And people out there have figured out how to cheat in games. And people in real life, these elites, these people above, the people that you see in charge, the so-called Illuminati, and the people above them, they are playing the system. They are the people that may work for what are called archons, or the demiurge, the designer of this world, the someone that made us for Lush, etc. But I wanted to share with you tonight my unfettered, unrestricted opinion about this whole reality we're experiencing as human beings. My solution to how to exit, which is you really need to stay here as long as possible. Ironically, I get asked questions, well, can I just kill myself? Well, not really. I don't think so, because every day my gnosis, my knowledge increases even more. Every now and then I will find another piece of the puzzle, another thing that makes me even stronger internally in how I know things and my certainty of things. And I'm not trying to find things that reinforce what I already think. I am challenging myself, and that's another thing you need to do. Challenge what you think is so by looking at what people that don't agree with you say. Something that they're attacking at every level, right? Google, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, they're all out to restrict free speech, to shut down comic books, which is where our imagination lets us see the truth in fiction, through mythology, through science fiction, through fictional stories, through comic books. And all these things have been attacked now and corrupted and SJW'd for a reason. Because really good science fiction, really good comic books, really good fiction lets you really, what you're really doing if it's really good stuff is explore the truth about things in a non-confrontational environment. And that's all being attacked. And we can't even share information without being censored or repressed in some way or another. And it could be a repeating cycle. It seems to me that more and more people are starting to realize this is a soul farm, a reincarnation trap. And when that happens, there's a active suppression. Now, like when the Cathars were around, the Catholic Church killed them, maybe millions of them, burned their cities to the ground. Anytime Gnostics rise up in whatever form, in other words, someone who has a philosophy based on knowledge, not necessarily proof, We don't have blind faith. I don't have blind faith. I have to have faith sometimes based on educated guesses I make based on a whole bunch of information I've looked at. So I'm making that leap of faith through knowledge, not blind faith, which is what most religions want you to do. So that's how I see it. You got to stick around here if you actually figured out this is Soul Farm, because every piece of the puzzle makes you stronger. Every bit of knowledge gets you closer to the exit. And then you get to even see that it's really super simple. It's just a matter of, oh, I'm finally dead. I've lived a long, long life. Now I'm getting the hell out of here. See ya. No more reincarnations for me. Take your bullshit, whatever shape you have. Look at me. I'm formless. I can shape shift into anything I want to. Don't forget that when you come out of your human body, you don't have to maintain your human form anymore. You can appear to be anything you want, or you can appear as nothingness, as a formless thing, or a pure being of liquid light, or whatever. And then you can determine by your intention to exit, and I mean the entire universe, because there's more beyond this, and then go out of here. Everything here is information based, mathematical based. That's why you can have multiple universes. All of them can be infinite, because it's all based on information. And information can say something is infinite, and therefore it is so. If that makes any sense. I really hope that what I said here makes sense, because this is the second time, I got to tell you something. This is the second time I recorded this podcast. I recorded this podcast a couple days ago, and I didn't hit the record button. So I spent all this time, like I am right now, talking to no one, recording nothing. And now I can laugh about it. It's pretty funny. Anyway, if all goes well, this will upload to Spreaker, and then it'll populate YouTube, BitChute, etc. And I'll post it after it does all that. In a few days, I will post it at the top of my website at OverwatchProject.com. So check it out there. Best place to leave comments would probably be on my YouTube channel, where this would appear after it goes on Spreaker. Either way, leave a comment if you want. And I hope this helps you. I hope I made sense. Did I articulate myself well enough? It's very hard to explain things that cannot be explained in words, if that makes any sense. I'm doing my best. Every time if I go back and listen to, sometimes I forgot this, or I should have said that this way. Just try to get what I really mean sometimes, because sometimes I try to say something a certain way, it doesn't come out right. So I hope that you found this informative and useful, and I'll talk to you all later. You have a good day or a good night whenever you happen to be listening to this. Don't forget to check out my website, OverwatchProject.com, and I'll see you next time when we're talking about something else interesting. See ya. Bye.